The 2023 NFL Draft was a very successful one for the Seattle Seahawks. It's hard to argue with any of the selections, and indeed, I feel like this is probably the second best draft in the last 15 years and probably a top 3 all-time draft in Seahawks history. With that said, there is one little place that I would nitpick. There is one player that I just can't quite understand his selection. I just can't quite get my head around him. And that would be 4th-round pick, defensive tackle out of Mississippi State, Cameron Young. This kid was taken on day 3 by the Seahawks, and I feel like a little bit of the selection was driven by the pressure John Schneider was starting to feel from the local media. After all, he had gone through day 1, round 1, and not taken a single defensive tackle with 2 picks. Then it ignored it through day 2 as well, with 2nd and 3rd round. And each day, of course, Schneider and Carroll are giving post-draft conferences, and they are getting asked about, why aren't you addressing this defensive line position? Why haven't you gotten to this yet? Come on, John, get to it. And so it kind of felt like then by day 3, he sort of sent like, here, are you happy? I got you one there finally. Now, Cameron Young definitely has a huge share of hype coming from other different camps out there. And so I could certainly be just missing the boat on this kid. There are some good attributes that you do see on tape. He plays with a very high level of effort. There is a very big motor in this kid. He's going to keep going. He's going to keep hustling. And the Seattle Seahawks are going to remain a team that is a very much rally to the ball type of defense. Those guys got to get there to that spot. Everybody's got to be going 100%. And this kid's going to give you that. He also gives you a marginal bit of power. It doesn't show up play after play after play, but you do see it from time to time flash through. And it does give you a little bit of maybe optimism for him, then manning the duties down there over the center as a zero tech, as a nose tackle. But the issues that come into play are many, many fold. When you look at first and foremost his PFF ranking, which I'm not using to be the end-all determinant, but let's just look at that on the surface of it. The grades are not good. He's not one of the more highly rated defensive tackles out of last year. Middle of the road, maybe, to put it kindly. And while he did show a little bit of an ability to play against the run and that his grades were decent in that respect of things, I've got to say that I don't necessarily see that on the tape. There's a couple of things that you want to have a zero tech do as far as base skills that at least lets you know that he's going to be able to handle the base duties of the position. 1, can you stand up against the double teams? Can you remain immovable? You don't have to drive guys back off the ball, but can you just hunker down and hold your position so that your guys can rally to the ball? I don't see Cameron Young doing a whole hell of a lot of that on his tape. In fact, there's a lot of times he's going to get blasted off the ball. It's 2 guys. I understand it's a tough draw for those defensive linemen to have 2 guys hit him in that way, but he doesn't often enough show an ability to get rigid and be able to anchor down in the fashion that you would like to see so the rest of the defense can really flow. Another thing that really stood out that I found kind of problematic on his tape is that he's getting single blocked a lot of the time by a center and without problem. A zero tech has got to command the double teams. He's got to be enough of a nuisance, enough of a problem on the football field that he forces that guard down to him every time. And to see so many teams so very comfortable to just single block him with the center, and then to see those centers be successful in executing their block against him, got me a little dismayed on him and has got me just a little bit down on him. But let's dive into the tape. Let's not have you take my word for it. Let me try to show you why I'm struggling with this and why I'm just not quite in on Cameron Young as I am in on so many of these draft selections in this prior draft. All right, we're going to start off with a little bit of good from Cameron Young here. It's not all bad with this kid on tape. There are some rays of light to his game. And in this particular game, he's playing against LSU. So some tough competition as always, but that's what you get when you play in the SEC on a weekly basis. And here LSU is called 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. And they're bringing Kayshon Boutte, one of those wide receivers, across the formation pre-snap. So by the looks of things, if you were a defender here, you'd say, well, this play is probably going to go to the strong side of the formation here or to the left. But that's not how Cameron Young reads it. Instead, he seems to innately understand that this is actually going to come to the weak side of the formation. He pops to that side quickly post-snap. He's right there to gather in the running back and help to prevent this first down from happening. Another play here against LSU that's going to show off the awareness and instincts that Cameron Young possesses. And this personnel grouping and the way that it's aligned should look awful familiar to you. We've got the 12 personnel package once again, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers to one side of the football field. So exactly the same as we just saw. And what did we see Cameron Young also do on the prior play? He bounced to the weak side of the formation. Something in his pre-snap read told him to go there. maybe the coaches just told him to shoot the gap and they were just smart about it. I'm going to pass it off to instincts at the moment. Now, in this particular play, despite seeing that exact same formational grouping set up in the exact same alignment, he pops to the right, and he does so immediately after the snap, almost as though he is reading this in his pre-snap indicators. And he is correct on this play, much like he was correct on the former play. You also get a little bit of a taste of his motor on this particular play, as he really does carry down the line of scrimmage to help impact the play, help keep it to only a couple of yard gain. Kind of it all comes together on this particular play to show you off what he does best. On this play, you're going to continue to get a good feel for Cameron Young's awareness in space, his ability to diagnose, but you're also going to feel a little bit of his power. He's getting on this play a purified double team, and he's got to really hold the ground. This center, this guard, they're not peeling off to get down into the second level here. They're staying right heads up on top of him. And not only does he not really give any ground, if zero tech, you give about a yard ground of space on this kind of play, I consider that a win for you. It's when the guys give up 5 yards of space retreating before they can try to recoup, get that ground pick back up that I have a problem with. A guy like Gervon Dexter would do a lot of that on his tape out of Florida. And that's not what he's doing here. He's holding his ground, but he's also still flowing on down to the running back. He's still keeping his eyes heads up. He's still getting to the play. This isn't an A-gap run. He's got to go find this running back. So not only is he holding up against the double team, he's still then going and finding a way to make the tackle. Two main attributes that I love to see at the forefront of a good nose tackle are, first and foremost, holding the line against those double teams, as we just talked about. Not necessarily having to split them, just hold your ground. And then, if offenses should dare to single block you with a mere mortal center, I expect you to devastate him, fold him like a chair. And that's just what Cameron Young here does on this play as they try to block him with that said center. He runs him right back into the backfield instantaneously after the snap, but he's not done there. He continues to rally on down to the ball, find the ball carrier, as there's no real good holes here on this particular play for him, and is able to help out on the tackle. Wonderful play here from Cameron Young. He's lined up as a 3-tech here against Alabama on their offensive weak side of the formation. And what he's going to do here on this play is show off the diagnose abilities that we've already shown a little bit, where he reads that this play is actually going to go to the strong side of the formation. But he also shows off that strength and power. As you look at this initial punch, you can tell by just where the line of scrimmage marker is. Notice how that right guard gets driven back a little bit off that initial punch. He's not able to push Young back. Young's pushing him back. But Young's not just simply pushing him straight back into the backfield. Young is already initially, right off the snap, already progressing towards the ball carrier. This is going to be an outside zone run. This is a lot of ground and territory for him to cover to have any kind of impact on this tackle. But an impact he does have because he's hustling right from the snap and also because he diagnosed it correctly. Alabama's going to try to run right at Cameron Young this time, and they start with a combo block initially post-snap against him. But I think what he does a really good job of here post-snap, as we've seen him a couple times do, is that he's diagnosed where the play is going to flow to initially right off the bat. But then he drives really hard, slants really hard to one side of the field there, and he doesn't really give the center a good opportunity to initially lay that block that he's looking to lay before he can peel off into his second blocks. Then we see Young carrying down the line of scrimmage, as we've already seen on a couple of these snaps with the high effort, where he's still fighting off the block, but he's still getting laterally. Still carrying him down. A lot of the times these zero techs just can't move in space at all to get down and have any impact on these plays. And this is very important, of course, because you play in a division with the Niners and the Rams, who love to utilize these type of horizontal plays. That's where they'll kill you as much from a defensive standpoint, as much horizontally as they do vertically, as teams traditionally do try to get you vertically. That's not necessarily what the Rams and Niners are always trying to do. They're going to see how your team's speed is. When watching the tape, one of the places that Cameron Young really struggles in his hand usage. But on this particular play, maybe gives us a little bit of hope for the future here, as he flashes not one, but 2 swim moves. Now, the first one's kind of a quasi-swim move, but he is able to use his hands to knock the hands away of the right guard to get past him. And then he uses more of a kind of pure swim move to get over the top of the center and give himself a straightforward path to Bryce Young. Now, because Bryce Young and him are second cousins, he obviously can't hit him. He's got to let him get away, but he did show the effort initially, so that part was good. The Kentucky tape for Cameron Young was probably overall the best I saw. It wasn't without its blemishes, but there were some really good sequences in there for him. On this particular play, you see one of them where he holds up at the point of attack, and Kentucky tries to challenge him with a center. And what I say about centers before, you need to destroy center blocks as a nose tackle when offenses dare test you with that. And he does so here. dispenses away with the center and is able to help make the tackle. On this play, Kentucky is going to run a little slant route into the slot, so there is no opportunity for any of the defensive linemen to have any kind of impact as pass rushers. And on this play, Cameron Young's not even making the tackle, but he is showing again that motor where he is going to hustle back down the football field to go try to help make the tackle. And I'm going to pause a frame here that really, I think, illustrates this right here. Notice here as he's just about to come in and make the tackle here or help to make that tackle, make sure that guy's brought down to the ground. Look at all the other defensive linemen for Mississippi State. Lollygagging. Bunch of lollygaggers back there behind him, but not him. Picture perfect technique here from Cameron Young on this play. He's going to get a left guard trying to down block on him. He takes on that guard first, wins the leverage war initially, and then utilizes what he has to utilize, which is that he's got longer arms than just about anybody else down there on the interior. He best to use them, and he does here. Look at how well he gets him locked out on this play. Still keeping his head up, still tracking where the ball carrier is, and able to go take down one of the toughest ball carriers to tackle in all of college football last year in Chris Rodriguez and keep this play to only a 2-yard gain. I've got a beastly play here for Cameron Young for you. You've got a heavy formation from the offense. The defense counters that with what darn near looks goal line here from them here on 3rd and short. That means Cameron Young's going to get a one-on-one opportunity in this situation with the guard. And he takes that guard and he walks him right back into where the running back is trying to go. It's a very, very impressive play as far as showing off the strength here because he just seems to walk him back almost effortlessly. And this is not a running play that's going towards Cameron Young's side of the field. He is shaded a little bit as a one-tech, I would say, just to the right shoulder of the center. And so he's not really in the right position here to go and make this play, but he just so overwhelms the guard that he's able to make it happen. All right, I've shown you the good. Now I got to show you some of the bad because unfortunately for me, it is a little bit more bad with Cameron Young on tape than it is good. Not that it's all one or the other. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but it is just a little bit more bad than good. And I talked about a minute ago here, 2 of the 4 front skills I look for with 0-tech, nose tackle, 1-techs is an ability to hold up against double teams and dominate single blocks against centers. Well, here on this particular play, you're going to get Cameron Young against a double team block of the center and the guard, and he gets blown out of the hole right off of the snap. Almost no resistance, driven back a couple of yards, and this is where the play is going, right at him. He is the point of attack. And with this huge hole that has been created, this gaping hole, the running back gets right through it on his way to daylight for a touchdown. Unfortunately for me, there's a little bit too much of this on tape with him with the double teams. It's a really important thing for the 0-techs to be able to handle this in this respect of things, because if they can hold up against the double teams, offenses have to commit to that. And now you are able to keep your linebackers a little bit more freed up beyond just having a guy that can be a wall and hold up at the point of attack as we're seeing in this kind of situation. Another double team at the point of attack. Cameron Young's got to be stout here. He's got to hold the ground, hold the line. Instead, he gets driven back. There's a hole created, and the running back is easily able to get the first down. Young encounters another double team block, though this is a passing play rather than a run, and it does not go particularly well for him as he ends up off of his feet fairly quickly on this play with a man on either end of him, almost like Chinese finger cuffs. Some more double team snaps here. This is a bubble screen that's going to the far side of the field. No chance really for Young to impact this play, but notice really how far off the ball he gets driven by the double team block here initially. Another double team snap here where he's just getting driven right off the ball instantaneously after the snap, and it leads right to a first down. Another tough double team rep here for Cameron Young. This is Alabama throwing the ball here, so he's trying to generate some pass rush, and that's going to be tough to do for a guy inside against a double team like this. But notice how the double team basically almost throws him back across the original line of scrimmage. Then he comes back up and seemingly then has a direct route to Bryce Young to maybe, salvage this play. And the effort certainly is impressive on his part that he at least stays with it, considering how badly he got dominated on this play as far as the block was concerned. But even though he is only about 2 yards away from Young, he is able to slip away. And as I spoke about before, they're obviously blood relatives. So, he just doesn't want to hurt his family. That's understandable. I'm going to run these next couple of clips with Kentucky because they're all showing the very same thing, and I'm not looking to belabor this point. Him struggling against those double team blocks, him unable to be stout and hold up at the point of attack, him getting blown off the ball instantaneously time and again against those double teams, giving up so much ground, not being able to really provide any kind of resistance. It has me concerned because this is one of the more forefront things we're going to need him to do when he first comes onto the scene here. We need him to be a good run stuffer. He's essentially right now the de facto starter for us in this respect of things, and he's going to be getting a whole hell of a lot of double team blocks at the pro level. Throughout the vast majority of the tape, Cameron Young struggled against the double teams more than he was able to hold up. So how did he do on the other end of the scale when he had opportunities to be singled up one-on-one, especially in those aforementioned scenarios that I talked about earlier, where he's got the opportunity to go up against a center, a matchup that he should dominate? Does he dominate? Unfortunately, we don't get anything close to dominance. Instead, we get a lot of snaps that are exactly like this one, where he'll be matched up here against the right tackle of Alabama. Now he's trying to get home with his pass rush, and this is going to be a bit of a tougher draw for him as the right tackle probably is going to have a natural better ability against him in that respect of things. So it's no great red mark on his report card for the game that he's not able to beat the man here in this situation. But he also doesn't mount any kind of real fight. He doesn't seem to have a plan A in place, and he also doesn't seem to have a plan B, no counter moves. And this does show out throughout his tape over and over again, especially when it comes to him trying to generate any kind of pass rush. The left guard on this play has got to take care of Cameron Young, and it's a difficult block where he's got to carry him laterally while also getting pushed up the football field, as this is an outside zone run to the right side. And he is able to accomplish this, where Cameron does a good job with the pursuit, good job with the hustle, but he's losing far too much ground on this play. And he ultimately gets sealed off. Another play here where the left guard is going to give Cameron Young the business, and this is a considerably tougher block to lay. First off, Cameron Young's now in a zero tech position here, heads up over the center, which means that left guard is naturally pretty far away from him to land this block. This is definitely what we'd call a reach block. And then it's made even doubly tougher because this play is going to go to the right side, which means that Cameron Young kind of has a head start on this play in addition to already having a natural head start by the alignment to getting to this play and blowing it up. Cameron unfortunately misdiagnoses this a little bit. He gets heading a little bit too fast up the field rather than getting a little bit more lateral. This just sort of brings him into the block with the left guard, and then the left guard is able actually to get some movement of him to drive him a little bit up the field a bit, creating a lane then for the running back to bust out for a touchdown. The right tackle for Kentucky down blocks on this play, catches Cameron Young kind of unaware of what's going on, and then takes him for a ride. Too often, Cameron will struggle to regain his footing, regroup, find a way to counter the initial L that he might sustain on a play. This was the play that Marshawn Lynch made famous, the good old A-gap power run right over the top of the center's back. And on this play, this is going right at Cameron Young. Mano-a-mano blocking across the board from Kentucky on this play. And the right guard's going to take him on a nice long ride. And this play has some bad consequences to Young's failure as this play busts out for a big-time run for Kentucky. We've got a 3rd and short here for Kentucky, and they're going to run another power run right over the top of the A-gap, right at Cameron Young, and the right guard's going to hit him on a reach block and really root him up out of that hole, drive him back almost all the way back into the end zone, allowing for this play to not only go for a first down, but nearly go for a touchdown. I'm going to string together a few clips here of Cameron Young rushing the passer, and it's just going to show off how ineffectual he is in this respect of things. No first step quickness, no bend, no dip, no ability to use his hands, no counter moves. The motor is relatively nice, but he doesn't have anything to pair it with. And so oftentimes you see him post-snap just get right into the chest of whoever is blocking him and becoming completely neutralized. On these next few plays, you're going to see Cameron Young getting his lunch ate by the center in a one-on-one block. Something, as I spoke about earlier in this video, I just hate to see from my zero techs. They should really be able to dominate these matchups. You have this first rep here against LSU where he's going to go up against the center. It's a read option right over the top of his gap. He gets neutralized by the center one-on-one, and then when the running back's running right past him, seems to have no awareness that he's even right there near him in space to even try and attempt to make the tackle. Another play here where Cameron Young's going to get taken right up out of the hole and by a center in a one-on-one block. I know Mississippi State here has a 3-man front, which is countered by Texas A&M with a 6-man front, but this is a one-on-one block. He's not getting double teamed here, and the center is easily taking him out of the hole right where the running play is going to go. The running back, as he's going past, also seems to be maybe within arm's reach here of Cameron Young, or at least he could make an attempt there, but he seems completely unaware the running back is coming past his lane, much like we saw in the last play. Another running play at Cameron Young, and these are the greatest tests that you can provide to a nose tackle. Can you hold up at the point of attack? Can you be strong? Or do you just give ground? And if you do give ground, are you doing it by a double team block or a single block? Again, here it's a single block with the center, pushing him backwards, almost to the point he's folding Cameron Young like a chair instead of Cameron Young folding him. Cameron again singled up with the center here. This is a design quarterback keeper going right past Cameron Young, unaware of the quarterback going past him, just completely entrenched in his block essentially, and not able to get off of it, not able to see where the ball carrier is. We've seen this on a couple of these clips. I've been looking far and wide for a ray of light in regards to Cameron Young, and I just can't seem to find it. I even dived into his testing numbers, the combine and pro day scores. He came away with a 6.33 raw athletics score. And he really posted in particular some putrid times in regards to the 3-cone and the short shuttle drills. This is also, I think, representatory of what we saw on the tape from him, where he can struggle to change direction and stop and start, which is exactly what those drills do test for. Now, according to Cameron Young, he did a little bit of what Mike Morris did, where he tried to drop 15 pounds, come to the combine a little bit lighter, hoping that he could then amp up his testing scores a little bit more and then elevate his stock within that. And then that just blew up in his face as he didn't post particularly good scores a la like Mike Morris. But he still wouldn't have tested particularly well, or would have even tested worse if he was up at 320. And adding 15 pounds wouldn't have raised that raw athletic score any much more higher at that point in time. So he's still a guy that's going to struggle in space to go out there and make tackles, and that's even in those rare times that you're seeing him holding up then at the point of attack. He's got a great motor. He's going to give you all he's got on the football field. There's no doubt about that. But he's got to have a chance to be able to rally to that ball, and offenses in the NFL don't always give you that chance, especially with the speed of modern day NFL offenses. Clint Hurtt is going to have to do some of his best work with this kid if he's going to develop him and develop him fast. And if he can do so, it will be one hell of a feather in Clint Hurtt's cap. Let's not forget, we're right now penciling this kid in to be your starter day one at the Zero Tech. And so if Hurtt can get him to give you some meaningful snaps next year in that respect of things, and though the PFF scores weren't great, they did have that minor little silver lining where he was somewhat decent against the run over the last couple of years, and that is the one thing we need from him. Don't need him to be a pass rusher. We just need him to be a wall at the point of attack, to be good in the run game, because that's one of the real missing areas on this team throughout this offseason, and certainly was last year, where you had teams at times run at you at will. And that was even at times with teams that were bad teams. We'll see if Clint Hurtt can develop them. We'll see if I'm just wrong on this one and missing the boat. I certainly hope I am. I hope Cameron Young can really develop and turn into a fine player for our Seahawks, because if they're going to have hopes and aspirations in 2023 of truly contending, they're going to need this kid to be a stalwart Zero Tech for them some way or another, even if it's just in a rotational role. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.